Hello friends. People tend to believe that over the years the study of our planet. We know they, if not all of that, at least a lot we have learned to move mountains, create drainage of the seas, turn back riverbeds, but at the same time there are a lot of unexplored places on our planet that cannot be explained by anyone, and by the way, often such the place is right under our feet and even the latest equipment. Modern man is not able to solve these riddles and friends today. We will go to the shores of Nova Scotia in eastern Canada, where it is located unremarkable. Small Island. For more than 225 years, people have been honestly trying to reveal the secret of the hidden treasure, which they already know, everything. But no one has yet been able to get it. So, what is the reason for a casual tourist? An island with an area of only half a kilometer looks quite ordinary. Rocks and sand bends around the perimeter of the land, and forest and bushes cover most of it. But despite the beautiful scenery about island, the history of the past of this island is full of secrets, intrigues and even tragedy. The story that happened here captured the human imagination and brought here many people, from scientists to adventurers, each of whom fight against attempts to explain the mystery of the money pit. According to official figures, in 1795, 3 curious boys came across an abandoned mine. It was with her that the history of searching for treasures on the island began. On the branches of a large oak tree, the boys found a system of ship's underpants stretched to the filled hole. It is worth saying that at that time the story of the Corsair pirates was not fiction at all, but real truth. The guys managed to get into the pit to a depth of 3 meters. There they found a partition of oak logs and the tiers of the country of the mine, extending into the depths of the earth. Of course, the boys did not climb further and went home. But since the island is okay. Even then, he was notorious for the relevant residents. Then telling the children did not motivate adults to continue the study. Several years passed before one of the inquisitive men named Daniel Guinness did not come to tax in the company of like-minded people, hoping to find a treasure hidden underground, and he probably had some. These are foundations for nothing in the middle of a small island. Mines do not appear by themselves, which means that the one who won had certain plans for it. Early 1800th years. Diggers took the ground and, already 4 meters under the topsoil, found a piece of wood, stretching across the entire surface of the hole. Excitedly men dismantled the pit flooring to receive the long-awaited reward. But, unfortunately, they discovered a layer of earth again. Of course they continued excavations. And when the treasure hunter continued to dive down, they found that the hole narrowed to 2 meters in diameter, and at a depth of 6 meters, another layer of wood was discovered. The wood covered the width, the hole, forming a wooden one. The platform end of the lumber was driven into different sides of the tunnel walls to firmly strengthen the structure. This deliberate barrier and floors, the sound under the wooden planks, should have confirmed that huge riches were near, but as before, the enthusiasts were again disappointed. After they pulled out, the barrier was discovered by a 2-foot pocket of air, and it was followed by ground again. When treasure hunters pulled out a third platform of timber lumber only to find another layer of soil. The team decided to suspend their work on this site. A few weeks later, the fortune seekers returned to the pit with picks and shovels. However, the second attempt was again a failure for them. After several days of work under the scorching June sun, removing a few more meters of earth from the deepening hole, they again collided with decks of thick wood embedded in the clay of the tunnel wall, and his companions dug another 3 meters before admitting defeat. A few weeks of work and a huge amount of energy wasted made them stop their treasure hunt. In total, they were able to get to a depth of about 10 meters. At the same time, having disassembled about 5 tiers, floors. After this very first unsuccessful expedition, a bad reputation of a small island appeared, but it was hiding its secrets. The mine was named Monetary. Be that as it may, but prospecting work was resumed a few years later, when at the beginning of the 1800s, the site containing the mysterious pit was bought by a certain John Smith. This was already an attempt to unravel the secret of the mine by more mature and experienced treasure hunters. In 1813, the excursion was joined by Simeon Litch. He enlisted the help of Colonel Robert Archibald and Sheriff Thomas Harris. Jointly the group formed a professional enterprise company with the sole purpose of getting the treasure of the island of OK. Lenses and his people began their work by removing the embankment from the first excavations at a depth of 12 meters. The diggers found themselves in uncharted territory. From that moment on, every second could be a discovery, but then there was still the earth at a depth of 15 centimeters. One of the workers hit a solid object, taking out the soil. Another level of wood was found. But this time the men noticed the remains of charcoal. Scattered all over the platform at 18 meters there was another overlap, on which fibers, coconut shells were found. This was an important clue, although the coconut fibers had nothing of value, but the reason the material might have ended up here was because it was on long voyages across the open sea. Coconut fibers have been used to provide and protect valuable cargo. The team had to dig for several more weeks each time, meeting more and more overlap on their way, until at a depth of 27 meters they stumbled upon a flat stone with a mysterious inscription. Each character of a mysterious text consisted of unique combinations of line arrows of dots, despite its significant weight. People raised a stone from the pit for further study, since the stone was discovered at a depth of 27 meters. The diggers continued to work, but gave at a depth of 30 centimeters. They again ran into a wooden structure, and after passing it the team was surprised when, at a depth of 35 meters, they found again a wooden one. The members of the group were so exhausted that they decided to dismantle this barrier the very next day, after which the team went upstairs. Then they could not even imagine how they made a fatal mistake, as they came back to the mine in the morning at a depth of about 27 meters. The shaft of the mine turned out to be completely salted with seawater. After vain attempts to pump out the water, they did not succeed, so for some time the attempts to penetrate to the very bottom of the mine had to be stopped, looking into the well, where, perhaps, a huge fortune. The members of the company did not refuse to admit defeat. In the fall of 184, the group decided to use technology to overcome the challenge of the pit. To this end, they hired Mr. Carl Usher and his mechanical pump to clear the tunnel and allow people to resume their work. Immediately after installing the pump, the water level slowly began to drop down the clay wall, at a depth of about 25 meters. Just a few meters away, where they stopped the excavation, the water pump has failed with no pumps running. The water quickly filled the pits again. Already in 1805, the same team returned to the island again with a new idea. Despite the first two attempts, people believed that the new approach would be more effective, instead of digging in the hole itself. They decided to dig a new one parallel to the old one, and then make a tunnel from it underground, but at a depth of only 7 meters. The new pit quickly filled with water. Several years of wasted efforts, frustration and depletion of finances, forced this expedition to admit defeat. The fame of wasted millions and the defeat of previous expeditions cooled the ardor of others, but only for 45 years. During excavations in 1849, it was discovered that the mine through 2 artificial canals communicates to the sea, but the main question remained who and most importantly why built a mine on a small island, which is now beyond the power of modern researchers with expensive equipment, and all this was done several centuries ago. Interest in the excavations of the middle of the 19th century was fueled by the finds, the same stone, a piece of parchment with Latin letters and iron scissors, as well as fragments of a gold chain that we managed to get at a depth of 30 meters. There was a fact that before they already had a man there, but who and why is unknown to a certain colonel, who was also a member of the second group of search engines succeeded. After a few years, find investors who included quite rich and famous people, as well as attract the latest equipment for those times, pumps, excavator, drilling mechanisms and so on. But that also turned out to be meaningless. The mine was arranged, so attempts to penetrate it caused the flooding of the shore, and since then no one managed to get rid of the water in the mine. Visited as many as 7 expeditions. Each new group of enthusiasts was more and more equipped with new and modern equipment. Each time specialized specialists were connected, but no one was able to drain and understand the mine system. We can say that since then work has been carried out on the island almost continuously, and the local lands have been sold and resold several times in order to get to the bottom of the truth and conquer the impregnable mine in 1969. Half of the island was acquired by the company Triton, owned by the famous treasure hunters Bank and David, then without using the latest equipment. As a result of the radiocarbon analysis of the logs and the mine insert, it was established that the main construction work underground was carried out no later than 1660–1700. The very same mine, about 50 meters deep and 3 meters 65 centimeters in diameter, entered into the underground storage now flooded, the dimensions of which are still unknown. The new owners began their investigation from working in the archives. After several years of studying the collection of materials, They drew up the main versions of the origin of the structure on the island. He was not in a hurry to switch to drilling. And when he started, he chose a place for this 60 meters away, and the money mines. Having drilled a well, he discovered a large hollow chamber behind the rock, and even saw something resembling a huge box, a pickaxe and a human hand floating past the camera screen, lowered into the pit. This was a small confirmation of the theory with pirates, because according to the pirate custom, the island's treasure is guarded by at least one dead man. Daniel Banking was a very rich man who managed to solve many mysteries and find dozens of treasures. But the Island Club is his life's work. He himself descended a pipe with a diameter of 70 centimeters to a depth of 55 meters to see what was in an underwater chamber on the island. Was not yet ready to reveal his secrets from the purchase of land in the distant 1969. Daniel still lives on the island, but in recent years he has become a recluse. He spent almost all his fortune and his mind was clouded by the impossibility of solving the secret of the mine. The only thing that he is 100% sure of is that such a complex structure for the treasure was not built by pirates at all. And maybe not even by people. According to him, a person is not able to build something complex and thoughtful, especially several centuries ago. Indeed, at that time it was not possible to study underground waters, the current and so on under this island. In 2005, the island was co-owned by a Michigan group of American industrialists working in the deep drilling sector. Perhaps, the specialist and the owner of this company will still manage to reveal the secret of the underground structures of the island. He has already ruined several generations of treasure hunters and took only the official 6 human lives. Those trying to get their hands on the treasure have the idea of turning the island into a tourist attraction. And even so, making money did not find understanding among the owners of the island, which even today regularly renews its license to perform prospecting works. Experts put forward several versions about what is hidden in the bowels of the mysterious island. Approximately. First version. Probably the simplest and most common pirate treasure. But many are inclined to believe that this version is for ordinary people, such as you and me, so that everyone thinks that they are looking for treasure there, but in fact there is something much more serious there. Scientists are simply sure that the wasteful bandits in the face of pirates could not spend a lot of time and effort to build complex underground storage facilities that no one can figure out now. The second version says about the treasures of the Incas, transported to the north of the continent during the brutal conquest of the Inca Empire by the military, Francis wrote in the early 16th century. Historical chronicles claim that the treasures plundered by the conquistadors constituted only a small fraction of the entire wealth of the empire. But where did the main part go? It still remains a mystery. Some admit that the treasures on the island were hidden by the English monks from the Abbey of St. Andrew. The monks were hoarding their wealth. For more than 1,000 years, they hid underground galleries similar to those that were discovered on the island of the Abbey's wealth, and were never found in England. According to the fourth version, the case was not without the Masons, secretly the Holy Grail for which the money is mined. The islands of OK would be the perfect hideout. The fifth version says that in the first years of the bloody French Revolution in 1789, the values of the French royal house of Bourbons were hidden on the island. There is also a sixth version, and by the way, it is far from the last. It says that building such complex technical structures underground just to hide several chests with jewels in them is simply labor, and this is not a matter of treasures. After all, several centuries ago, according to official science, people did not know how to build anything of the kind, whatever the version. But no one managed to get the report after several tunnels were discovered near the coastline, which led to the money pit and through which, according to experts, water entered the mine. They were blocked channels filled with boulders and covered. But as you can imagine, these actions did not lead to anything. The money pit continued to fill with water anyway. Today, the Canadian island of Oak, famous for 2 centuries of drilling and treasure hunting, and the only detail that is known is that the money pit remains one of the greatest secrets on a planet that has never been unraveled. All in all, even difficult. There were more than 20 large and expensive expeditions on the island to believe in this, each of which came with new and ingenious plans with modern drilling rigs with research equipment and other things, but no one was able to get into the very secret room above it of this mine, and work on solving it has not stopped for 200 years, and even now he even managed to work in one of such expeditions. Former US President Franklin Roosevelt. Then he was only 27 years old when he was asked about this time and the mysterious mine. He only answered that we, people. It is probably too early to know about this. Friends. And what do you think? Write your guesses in the comments. But for today, perhaps all this video was pleasant, if it is for you, and see you soon.